Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to Mindful Mondays. I am your host, Laura Cross, and we are all about providing holistic practices, resources, and connections to support you on your wellness journey. Have you ever been there in the afternoon? Maybe you got that mid-afternoon slump, felt like you had absolutely no energy, or wondered how to do it. Well, a lot of us get stuck sitting, whether it's driving in a cubicle, behind a computer, and we do an awful lot of sitting, which is not good for us. And that is why I have brought for you today our special guest, Lila Veronica. She has over 20 years of experience with mind, body, posture, and work. So, Lila, tell us how did you even get started into the mind body practice to begin with?
Well, thank you, Laura. I appreciate being here, and I appreciate anybody who's listening and is choosing to, live a path of mindfulness and learn about being mindful. I spent the first 34 years of my life in my head. I'm a former academic, and I was always active. Exercise. I played t-ball and baseball as a kid, softball. I was a cheerleader. I danced. I danced for a couple semi-pro basketball teams. I've done all sorts of, aerobics training, weightlifting, coaching, but I still was in my head. And then what my little brother says, had an eat, pray, love moment. And I had an awakening, and I started becoming more conscious. And what I learned about a decade ago was that the body and the mind are connected. I had never thought about it before. I was going through a yoga teacher training and doing a lot of yoga, and the teachers were talking a lot about this. And so I started diving into the mind-body connection. I've always been practicing and teaching around the mind and around the body, but it was really, so like I said, for over 20 years, but it was really about a decade ago that I combined them. I would, work on my mind, work on my body, but I never did it together until I learned what mind body connection truly was. And my specialty is really going through the body, not just the mind. The mindfulness component is the body and the mind and the body. And that what that does is it really resonates into your energy. So you mentioned the late afternoon lull in the day, maybe from sitting too much or from what you had at lunch that made you tired or you're stressed. All of that stuff I've been able to get rid of in my own life, and also help lots of people all around the world get rid of by integrating not just the mindset work, but also the body component.
Yeah, that's also another very impressive thing, something you've got accomplishment you've got to be proud of, because I know you have helped people on all 7 continents, and I don't know too many people, that have done that. But maybe you can explain to us, because I know we're talking about dynamic posture. So what really is the difference between having a dynamic posture and just a posture? What gives that fast energy boost about the dynamic posture?
Yeah, I love what you said. So I'll give you an example. So I have worked with clients on all 7 continents, even Antarctica. I had a client going to Antarctica, and I said, I need, if you can we please do some work when you're in Antarctica? She said, sure. So she got to Antarctica. We got on a Zoom call. We did a session together. And so that was my, I actually was able to get a client in Antarctica before Africa, which was so wild. So anyways, what I taught her was dynamic walking. And I'll tell you what that is in a moment. But what she said from doing what I taught her how to do was that she was able to take in so much more of her experience in Antarctica. She was able to see more, feel more, experience more because of this. So dynamic posture is where we put the body into a physical form that's more as if you were in movement, as if you were jumping or leaping or hopping. And so a lot of times we've been told to stand up straight, tuck the tailbone, suck in the abs, shoulders down and back. And that is a static posture. If you want to stay still, and it's more of a mechanical posture, and we're animals, we're not mechanical. If you look at a skeleton, some vertebrae hanging from, like in a science class, it's
Mhm.
not up and down, it's curvy. So the dynamic posture puts the body into a curvy shape that's more open. So for example, instead of having the tailbone tucked and the knees straight, we keep the knees bent and the tail back. If you think about an animal, the tail wagging is a happy animal, the tail tucked is a fearful animal. So most people are sitting all day on their butt with their tail tucked. Most people are walking and tucking the tail. Most people are standing knee straight, tail tucked. There's a lot of exercise routines where they tuck the butt, and it's not good for us. It closes the pelvic floor. That's an energetic center. It closes our ability to be grounded in our body. It pulls energy actually up, and that's why people start to feel stressed and frenetic in the head, in the hamster wheel. And so we need to keep that low body open. I was just working with a client this morning. She's had a hooked tailbone and a really tight pelvic floor, and we've been working on it. And she recognized, like, she's been sacrificing her physical form, her body, her whole life, because of being stressed about stuff. And she's really starting to realize what's possible for herself. And she's in her 60s. And so the other piece is the shoulders. Instead of being the shoulders back and down, that closes off the back of the heart. The back is a very, they're big, strong muscles, and we need the back, if you think metaphorically, for the wings to spread. So if you're not going forward in life as big, as grand, as bold as you want, it might be because you're closing off the back of the heart. Any sort of trauma, any sort of thing we don't want to deal with, any sort of negative reaction, anything we like, oh, I'm going to have to deal with that someday, but I'm not going to deal with it today. We stuff it back in the back of our heart, in the back. And everybody knows that a lot of people have back problems. And a lot of it has to do with this static posture, this shoulders back, shoulder blades really coming in and crunching the back, the tailbone tucked, which diminishes the glute muscles. The glute muscles, the butt muscles need to come up instead of down to protect the low back. And so a lot of the back issues can be resolved by shifting into dynamic posture. And then the last piece is the eyes, the head. With computers, with cell phones, a lot of people are looking down and the head is going forward, and that's pulling on the spine. And so, chin tucked, shoulders back, tail tucked, it's too rigid. So if we lift the head up and we take our eyes out into the horizon, which is what I taught my client who was in Antarctica how to do, she was able to walk with a more open ribs and heart area, shoulders wide, softer on the feet, and then her eyes in particular looking out on the horizon. She said, I saw so much more than I would have seen. I would have been looking down or close. I saw so much that I wouldn't have seen if I wouldn't have learned that from you.
Yeah, you made so many good points in there. Yeah, there's a couple of them that it just triggered with me because, I was military, so I went through basic training, and they always teach you stand up straight, but not lock your knees because they don't want you passing out. And since I was always taller than my friends, I had a habit of kind of slouching because I was afraid of towering over them. And I can't tell you how many times my father came behind me, did that thing with the shoulders and said, stand up straight, and you're like, this,
Yeah.
but it tightens, like you said, it tightens up your back and it starts to make other things hurt. Or when you experience stuff or, travel, you start to get tired, you find yourself just, you just kind of let things go, and it might feel good momentarily, but generally I find you're normally kind of in more pain when you get up and try to move. Because I always found it was funny. When I was in the military, I worked on aircraft, moved around heavy stuff, not a problem, didn't have really any back problems. When I got out and I got a job as a secretary, and now I'm sitting at a desk doing this, next thing you know, I got a lumbar sprain. I'm laid up, and here comes the back problems. It was just one thing after another. Now, there was probably other factors in there, but I went to a more static position, I think, is kind of what you're saying. The static is just not good for us.
It's not. I've heard some say that sitting is the new smoking in terms of our health. And What I love about the show that you're providing for everyone, Laura, is that this is about mindfulness. So if you don't know how to sit, how to stand, how to walk, how to move through space, that's what I teach. That's what I show people. Instead of sitting on the butt, we need to be sitting on the legs, on the hamstrings, and let the butt go back. And there's a certain way to do that I teach. Instead of having the rib cage and the head right over the hips, or even leaning back on a chair, this is just a relaxed state. This is draining the energy. We need to have the ribs forward. You'll see that I have no back on a chair. I sit on a stool because I'm awake. I'm alert. I'm not going to sit back on a chair. Now, I have trained my body to create this discipline and this new mind body awareness. So I know it's not easy in the beginning, but you can train yourself over time to not need that back support. And I always like to say, if your back is against something, your brain thinks you're laying down. Like it's not an awake position. There's a lot of, also when the chin is down, it closes off our ability to breathe as deep, and also our energetic channel. There's a lot of monks who will meditate and they'll get themselves down to like 1 or 2 breaths in a minute simply by tucking the chin. And so the physical form dictates the mental function. So no matter how much mindset work you're doing, you can tell yourself all day, you're amazing, you're going to get $1 million, you're going to have the best relationships in the world. But if your body doesn't reflect that mindset work, it's not going to work. And so that's why I love what I do, because I love mindset work. I'm all about it. But unless you have the physical form that matches it, the energy won't be in alignment. You'll still be stuck in that cycle of problems. And I help people. I just got same thing off of a call with another client. And she said to me today, she said, I really love working with you because we can work on the body and the mind. We can talk things through that are going on, and then work through the body. She was telling me about a client that she has that doesn't appreciate her. And I said, I feel like that's tightening your pelvic floor. She's like, it is. And so we actually worked on her mouth, because she has a tendency to hold her mouth tight, because the mouth and the pelvic floor are mirrors of each other. And so the neat thing is there's a lot of people that might be doing fitness. There's a lot of people doing mindset work, but there's not a ton of people doing both the mind and the body together. And without them together, you don't really get the massive results that you want. And I believe that to really be mindful, you have to be in your entire body. If you don't know what your pinky toe is doing, you're not mindful.
Yeah, and that sounds kind of weird, but like you said, it's all connected. And I'm sure your client that you worked with, that probably not only helped her feel better or relaxed, but it's probably going to help her with that client. Because I've been to events too, where, you sit there, you think you're putting on a good face, you might be in pain in your back, and someone asks you how you're doing. Oh, you're doing great. And they're like, yeah, it's not what your face or your body says. And people can normally tell, whether you think they can or not.
It's a great point. People can tell. And whether they know it or not, whether they have a full understanding of something's wrong or not, there's an attraction. You're either magnetic or there's a repulsion. You're pushing people away. And I know that the more you're with yourself, the more your mind is in your body, the more other people want to be with you. The more that your mind is out of your body, so in the thinking state, in the avoidance of the pain maybe that you're having in your body, or just overthinking, you're actually pushing people away. People do not want to be around people who are thinking too much or disassociated from their body. A lot of people will come up to me and say things like, I don't know what you have, but I want some of it. Or I love your energy, Lila. Or I love how real you are. Or I've recently started hearing the word elegant a lot. People are like, you're so elegant. And I don't think of myself as elegant. It's not like something I think about, or I don't think about my energy being awesome. I just show up. And the reason they're saying those things, the reason they're coming in towards me, leaning in, they keep coming back. The reason my clients stay with me for so long is because that I'm with me, that I spend Now, this is the piece that I want to bring forward today for everybody, is that you have to spend the time to do it. So I know that people spend a lot of time sitting and you might have to drive and all that stuff, but you can still get up. You can still stop on the side of the road. I have clients who stop on the side of the road, do their little 10-minute exercise that I teach, because I teach, it's not going to take a bunch of time, but you got to take some time. They'll do their little 10-minute exercise and then they'll get back in the car and keep going. I do the same thing. I love road trips. I love driving across America, but I have to stop and get my body activated and open the body, get it from being too tight and then get back in. Because if you sit too long, you're going to be in pain. We all know it. And so I'm going to suggest that whoever's listening, if you're sitting a lot, learn a practice, whether it be through me or somebody, where you can every hour at least get up and do something, do an exercise routine. For me, what I would tell you is that you need to open the body, arms wide, wag the tail like a dog, smile the head. Those are some simple things to do. I have a whole system that I teach. I have 7 practices in particular that I teach. They're super simple 10-minute practices. There's 7 of them that will help, and you can do one, you can do all of them, whatever you want. But minimal is open the arms like you're winning, the wings are spreading, wag the tail, get a little bit of lateral movement side to side, and then smile and let the chin open, look up, because we tend to be on the computer and we're looking very, very small and close by areas. We tend to have the elbows, the arms always down by the ribs, closing off that capacity for breath. And then we tend to have that bottom part of our body closed off and it just doesn't move. If you watch people walk, the space between the tailbone and the mid back, the whole back area really hardly moves at all. There's hardly any movement. So we need this like reptilian snake-like movement. And that if you go side to side, you will get taller. All of my clients who stay with me for, an extended period of time get taller. I've worked with a lot of women who, same as you, Laura, they grew up tall, they try to keep themselves small, and then they learned from me how to be bigger, energetically, and how to spread, like take up the space you're meant to take up in the world, go wide, and they grow taller. I have grown a half an inch since I started practicing this. All of my clients who have continued this practice have got taller. Like I've got a client in her 60s who got taller. In her 60s. Like most people in their 60s are getting shorter. She's getting taller.
And that is totally opposite of what everybody says. It's like, oh, well, you shrink when you get older, you start, it's like, well, you don't have to unless you sit back and, accept it. And yeah, I've always told people, I'm like, you need a Lila. I've always told people you need a Lila, because I can tell you, even working with you, even if I just see your name or see your face now, it just like triggers in my head that, oh, wait a minute, I'm not doing this. I need to sit back. And I know you had taught me, especially for road trips, and I've done a lot of road trips lately, because you start sitting and sometimes you just kind of start sliding down. Next thing you know, you're tucked and you're like this and you hurt. And so, taught me to like shift up and sit. I mean, it puts my head almost up to the ceiling in the Mustang, but I sit there and I move and I sit myself up further. So I know you have a lot of helpful tips and stuff that I'm sure you can share with everybody. But before we start that, let's go ahead and jump to a commercial break. And then when you come back, I'm sure you can share some tips of what people can start to do now, or, or how they can start even just a little at a time. Because like you said, everybody's busy. They think they have time. But the thing is you don't have time not to. So I look forward to those answers, but let's go to the commercial break and we will be right back.
I'm Julianne Meyer, the host of Own Your Wellness, and you can watch my show on Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on Achieve TV right here on E360 TV. Remember, there's more to health and wellness than broccoli and burpees.
Are you ready to up-level your life? Are you ready to up-level your life and you know you have to take care of your body to do so? Hi, my name is Lila Veronica, and I'm a speaker, coach, and the CEO of Riverstone Movement School. And I can help you up-level your life by getting out of your head into your body without stressing out, without burning out, so that you can manifest exactly what you want. If you want more support, go to riverstonemovement.com.
All right. Well, we are back. That last one, that last one didn't quite work, but that's okay. You know, I have known Lila now for a couple of years, and to me, she's like the Energizer Bunny because every time I see her, she's just so vibrant, so energetic. But and we're going to put that up there so people will know how to get a hold of your Riverstone movement. And so please tell everybody, what are some tips, techniques you can give them that they can start with now? And does it really take a ton of time, or can they just start little somewhere, or at least get started?
Yep, I'd love to. I'll give you 3 H's. So this is an easy way to remember. It's heart, hips, head. Okay. So I'm going to actually show you here in a second. I'm going to take my stool back and I'm going to show you something because I think this will be really useful to show you instead of just tell you. Before I do that, I want to just give everybody an understanding of the challenges, the difficulties that might come. So first of all, from a mental standpoint, you're going to think this is hard. I can't do this. This is awkward. This is weird. Okay. If it's not weird, you're not doing it right. If you feel like you're good at this right away, you're probably doing it wrong. So I know that you've been in a tendency, you've trained your body with your mind to do one thing, and now you got to change it. So I same thing. I work with a lot of women who are in their, say, late 50s, early 60s, and they're in that transitional period, and maybe they're empty nesting, and they're like postmenopausal. There's some sort of new energy that they're bringing forward in the world, and they want to stay vibrant. I work with a lot of women who are almost 60, and they say, I want to be in the best shape of my life by the time I'm 60. And they're not there, and I help them get there. And so if a woman who is 60 years old can change the way she walks, sits, stands, and move through space, you can too. I don't care how old you are. I've worked with everything from 11-year-olds to men in their 80s. And so you can change if you want to. The mind will give out before the body. The body will change. It's your mind telling you. So I just want to give you that first part, the challenge, the mind. The second piece is the body will feel uncomfortable. Now, we don't want you to be in pain. If you're in pain at any point with what I tell you, back off, or if you can reach out to me, I can help you, but back off a little bit because you might be doing it too hard. We tend to do things a little too hard at first, and then we soften and find that middle ground. I like to say, not too hard, not too soft, right in the middle like Goldilocks. So,
Yeah.
So it will feel awkward. You know, when you learn how to walk a new way and you've been walking the same way your entire life, it's going to feel weird. So the body will feel awkward. You shouldn't feel in pain. You might be a little uncomfortable. You might be a little kind of sore, but not like in pain. So that's the second piece. And then energetically, I want to speak to this in particular before I show you, is that we're putting your body in an open position. When you put your body in a more open position instead of a closed, tight, rigid position, energy moves. So the body holds energy. The body holds emotion. The issues are in the tissues. So I just want to bring this forward. Anybody who starts to do what I'm going to tell you today, I'm just going to show you a little bit, but if you start to do this or any more, you might have an emotional response. You could feel super jazzed, like you said with me, I'm like super Energizer Bunny. You also could feel sad. You might feel like I have a client who she said, I keep crying for no reason. I said, it's okay. Let it out. You don't even need to make meaning out of it. Some reason the body needs to release. We're opening the body. Let the tears flow. It's okay. You might feel anger, irritation, frustration for no reason. You might know, you may not know. So I just want to give you that. Your mind's going to tell you this is awkward, weird. I don't like it. Your body's going to feel awkward and maybe uncomfortable. And then your emotions might feel different than what you're used to. So before I show you, I just want everybody to know that, because if you experience that stuff, it's very typical. So I'm going to take my stool and back up and show everybody how to sit today. Would that be helpful?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's my stool. If you have a stool, you can use that. If you have a chair, either way, you can use that. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that I like to, in the beginning, grab your butt. It's okay to grab your butt. It's your butt, okay? So you grab your butt and you can sit it back. You want to think about your tail going back. You can even wag your tail if you want to be silly goose. If you want to be serious, you just sit it back. But what you want to do is you want to sit on your legs. So you can grab your butt, you can sit on your legs. Maybe you don't want to grab your butt. It's like, that's too much for me. Okay, that's fine. Sit on your legs. Biggest thing is, instead of sitting on the butt, tucking the tail, that's draining your energy and harming your back. Sit on your legs, sit on your legs. Now I'm going to show you front view. Sitting on the legs, inner thighs, roll them in. Inner thighs, roll them in. What does that do? It opens the pelvic floor so that you're more rooted. You're going to feel your pelvic floor, which I'll tell you what that is in a second. The pelvic floor down. Instead of the pelvic floor tight and the butt down, you're sitting more on your pelvic floor, your bottom. This could feel weird at first. I understand. Also, what rolling the inner thighs in, it widens the glutes. It widens the butt. The sits bones go wider. The more wide and open you are down there, the more grounded you are, and the more energy flow you have in your body. So that's the first piece, is you take the hips back, you sit on the legs, roll the inner thighs in. The next piece is, so this is the hips area. We've got the heart, the hips, the head. Hips are open. Now you want the heart where your rib cage is. This is your breath, your life force energy. The more room you have for your breath, the more energy you have. And so you want to be mindful of how you're holding your ribs. I call it the heart area. It's easy to remember. You want this to be not over your hips, but just a little bit in front. Not so much that your back strains, but just a little bit, so that your rib cage, your heart, is in front of your hips. This is a dynamic position. Static position, heart over hips. Dynamic, which means in movement. You can be sitting in a dynamic shape so that you're in movement. You have energy flow, movement through your body. Heart in front of hips. With the heart, now this is weird for some people. Do it anyways. Keep your elbows away from the side. So we tend to work on the computer with the elbows down. We tend to drive with the elbows down. We always have the sides closed, and then the ribs start to collapse over time, and then the shoulder pain starts. There's a lot of reason people have shoulder issues. It's not necessarily the shoulder. It's the shoulder getting stuck to the rib area. The ribs need expanded. The ribs need to be open and lifted. And when that happens, the shoulders can float. If the rib cage is collapsed and compressed, the shoulders get stuck on the ribs. And so everything gets tight here. I've worked with a lot of people with frozen shoulder. We don't work on the shoulder. We work on the ribs. The more rib support you have from underneath, the more the shoulders can release. So elbows, if you're typing on the computer, if you're driving, anything, keep those elbows away from your heart, away from your ribs. If your elbows are in front of your ribs, your back is open. If your elbows are behind your ribs, your shoulder blades close and your back is tight. So this will help your back by keeping your elbows forward and wide. I know it's awkward at first, but I promise it'll feel good over time. If it's too much at first, just do it for a little while and then lower them back down. Train yourself a little bit and then lower it back down. So heart forward, hips back, and then your head. Lift the head up. If you have a computer screen, keep your eyes at the horizon. You want your head to be lifted. You want the top of your head, crown of your head going up to the sky. And you want, on occasion, every hour, every 10 minutes, whatever you can remember, however mindful you can be, look out into the distance. Imagine you're looking out into the sunset, the sunrise, a beautiful prairie, the mountain view. We all know it feels good. I saw you nodding your head. You're like, oh yeah, right? It feels good, which is a body response. It feels good when we look into the distance. So we know that's healthy. It feels good. So allow yourself all day long to do that. Continue to look out into the distance. That lifts the head, that sets the eyes back in the head more, and it aligns the spine. So heart forward, hips back, head lifted. Now I want to show you one thing standing, because if you stand a lot, so say you have a standing desk even, or somebody's like, oh, I got a standing desk, it still matters how you stand. If you stand static, tuck tail, elbows close, looking down, it's still, I don't care if you're sitting and standing, that standing desk ain't doing anything for you. You have a little bend in your knees. If you can't wag your tail, you're too tight, okay? Ribs forward, hips back, elbows wide, head lifted. So this is important no matter if we're sitting or standing. If you're standing and you have to be stillness, I'd recommend keeping your elbows forward, same thing, by either interlacing your hands like this, interlacing your hands like this. But basically, if your arms float down and back typically, you have to retrain them to go forward. So that's what I could suggest. I have a way to teach people how to walk, how to move through all planes of space, how to pick up your keys if you drop them, because that's where people usually get injured. It's not working out. It's the, oh, I dropped some, I picked it up, I hurt my back, right? So I teach people how to save yourself from injury and over time by learning how to hold your body in a whole new way. And in the beginning, it's hard to change, like anything. But over time, the body starts to take the form, and it's just a new natural. Like, Laura, you've seen me. I don't have to really think about how to walk and sit and stand. It's just a natural way of doing it now.
Yeah, I've seen her multiple times. I was like, and it just reminds me. And you and I talked, and you pointed out one time, because we did a posture analysis, because I know you're able to do posture analysis for people. So, and you can do it over Zoom. But as soon as I stand, the first thing I've always done is just kind of tucked, my arms back because don't know what else to do with my hands. And I've always gone back until you pointed out that was not a good thing to do. So every time I catch myself doing that, I was like, nope, gotta go in front.
Yeah, we all have tendencies. There's universal tendencies that most modern day people do. So lifting the toes, straightening the knees, tucking the tail, tightening the belly, elbows back, chin tucked. That's the tendency of modern day society. And then each individual has a tendency. Like your tendency was to bring your arms back. I do think that was probably a military oriented tendency. I have a client, a father-daughter client, who they're from Bosnia originally, and they live in London now. And in Bosnia, they were, stiff, arms back, keep it tight, legs together. And so for me to be able to teach them how to stand wide, arms forward, all this completely changed their life. Like what I've been able to see from them, the girl has been able to beat, she's a tennis player, just by changing the way she sits, stands, walk through space, does move on the tennis court differently as well. She's been able to beat and get gold in tournaments against girls who are 4 years older than her. She's 11, and then she's been able to beat 15-year-olds.
Wow.
Yeah, and the father's been able to. He's now becoming a tennis coach himself, which he never planned on when we first started working together. He just wanted to be able to play tennis with his daughter and keep up with her, and because she's so good. And now he's not only be able to keep up with her, but he's getting his coaching certification to be able to be a tennis coach now.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, to make, is like, it's not that it's necessarily hard to do. It just takes practice, and you have to keep doing it, because you can't expect to undo years of bad posture or bad habits and just whoop, be done. I mean, we got into this society where everybody wants everything like yesterday, but it doesn't always happen, that quickly. You have to start incrementing, and like you said, be mindful of what you're doing. And then until you can program your head to watch out for that and you can correct, it can be quite a challenge.
It really is. The first piece is the awareness. Eckhart Tolle, I think, says something to the effect of 90% of the work is the awareness. So that's why I love being able to work with people. Like you said, I do provide complimentary posture assessments. If anybody wants to have one with me, you need sometimes somebody else's eyes on you. You don't know what you're doing, your patterns, your habits, your tendencies, unless somebody else tells you. So I have a super simple system. I run through the body and I show you exactly what you're doing with your body that's either harming you or helping you. And so that's the first piece, is the awareness, and then the implementation. This is a fast food society, get it quick, TikTok short form video kind of society right now. So it takes a special person to commit to being disciplined. And when I say disciplined, I mean being the disciple of yourself. And that is, you have to train yourself. I have a very long history of academic endeavors, and I had to stay at it for a long period of time. And that trained me to be able to really stick with something. When I make a choice that I want something, I do it. I don't have cheat days. Like I just don't. When I want to change, like, say, the way I'm eating, I've recently started juicing, for example, and really enjoying that, and flushing my body with extra nourishment. I've been doing that for about 4 months now. And my partner says to me, he's like, "You're an oak tree." He's like, "When you said you're going to do this, you like do it." And you don't, I gave up sugar and just never ate it again. Like, there's no, well, how do you do it? You just do it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I understand that it's not easy for everybody, but if you really want to feel good in your body, if you really want to become mindful and elevate your consciousness and be the attractor in the world and feel good, like, it takes discipline over a period of time.
Yeah. And you have to want to make that change. There's a lot of people that, there's so much you can do, but you have to really, like you said, want to make that change and stick with it. And you may not notice it, but like you said, your partner, but when you get people to start complimenting you this, then, obviously, something's affecting it, that's made that change.
Yeah. And I'll give everybody some language here. Saying that you want something is not the most empowering language. Saying that you choose something is the empowering language. Wanting is actually saying that you don't have something. Choosing is saying that you have it. You have it. So I know that a lot of people want stuff, but not everybody chooses it.
That is very true. And language means a lot, especially with mindful, because there's so many people that say, "Oh, I can't do that." I always tell people, if you're going to say that, yes, but try saying, "How can I do that?" Make your mind work as to how you can accomplish something and how you can do something, instead of just shooting yourself in the foot and saying, "I can't do that."
Yeah. And there's this book, I forget the author, but he wrote it. It's Who, Not How. Sometimes the how can I is who can help me. So don't try to do it alone always. It's not always easy.
No,
I've had
I always
lots
say
of,
self-care
yeah.
is it's a journey that you have to take, but you don't have to take it alone. Having that support and others that can support you and help you along the way, I think is really huge for that.
Yeah, I've had mentors almost my entire life. There's very few, I can't actually think of any time in my life that I haven't had a mentor of sorts. So, highly recommend if you want to get where you want to go faster, especially, get some help.
Absolutely. So Lila,
Mhm.
share with them. I'm sure you have some fascinating stories of things that you've seen with your clients that you've worked with, how this has helped them change not only personally, but in their relationships, but their business. Because everything we do, whether we realize that it does or not, it affects all planes. A lot of people try to say, "Oh, I keep work at work and home life," but do you really?
There's no such thing because it's the individual. I'll give you a couple stories. So I've got one client, I'm working with a couple right now. I've worked with them with their body movement, with their mindfulness, and what they've told me is that they have their marriage because of me. If it weren't for me, one, they wouldn't have got married, and two, they wouldn't have been able to keep their marriage because they had some struggles. I had another client years ago, who she was a post chemotherapy, radiation, and cancer surgery. She had gone into a deep depression. She was drinking a bottle of tequila every night to get to sleep because she was so stressed and depressed that she had insomnia issues, and she was drinking a bottle of tequila just to get to sleep. We started working together, and she lost 65 pounds. She stopped drinking. She left her career and started her own business. And now she has a multiple six-figure business. And she's mobile. She travels the world. And so she's able to work from anywhere in the world. She looks amazing. She feels amazing. She has really supportive people in her life. She's part of some really loving communities. Whereas years earlier, she was home alone drinking tequila, And so that's probably one of my favorite stories, to be able to help somebody stop self-medicating with unhealthy things, drop 65 pounds, start her own business. I told you about the client in Antarctica who was able to take in more than what she typically would have been able to. I've also helped, I have clients who say aren't entrepreneurs, they're in the startup world or they're corporate execs. And I've been able to help them get new jobs where they make more money, number one, and they have more respect, and they're being valued in their life.
Yeah,
I have
that
another
is
client.
awesome.
Yeah, I have another client who's in her 60s who has 3 adult sons, and she used to have a foot. She had a foot injury decades ago, and she wasn't able to really do a whole lot of activity. She could walk and get around, but she was real hesitant because she had this foot injury and it would act up all the time. So we've worked together, and she now plays wiffle ball with her grown sons. She plays tennis, she swims, and she has this, she recently started running, and she's actually keeping it secret from her. She's got one son, she's told, but she's keeping it secret from her family because they're runners. Her boys and her husband are all runners. They run races. Her one son has run the Boston Marathon this past year. Yeah. And so she's actually going to show up. They have a fundraiser every year for the family business. And she's going to show up and run the race, and nobody knows yet. So to
That
be
is
going,
awesome.
to be decades of the one to be next to everybody racing, and then she's going to show up and be in the race and showing everybody that, it really warms my heart. It really does. A big part of taking care of your body and being mindful in your body is that you value yourself more. You own your worth. And when you do that, it feels different. It really, it brightens you up in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't tell, it just resonates out of you. But that's one thing I've always loved about you, because you and I are both very heart-based people. And, I know you're a heart-based coach. And so share with everybody. I went ahead and put the lilaveronica.com. That is the best way for them to get a hold of you, whether coaching or whatever. Because like you said, it's a mind, body, and if you're an entrepreneur, and I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch this channel, your posture and the whole mind body connection is huge and really plays into your success as well.
It really does. I like to say how you move through the world is how the world moves through you. So if you're not getting what you want from the world, then you're not showing up in the world in a way to receive what you want. And so the body is the number one 3D thing that we get. We come here with a body, we leave with a body. That's it. And so if you're not taking care of this atomic matter flesh suit, you're not going to get the 3D money part. Like it's directly related. The body and the wealth, it's directly related. And I've seen it over and over and over. I've helped tons of people create 6 figures, multiple 6 figures in their businesses through not only strategy is important, but also the body. If you know how to show up in your body and know how to not release stress in your body, everything changes in terms of your wealth creation. And so, yeah, Lila Veronica, the lilaveronica.com. I also have a complimentary training that if anybody wants to get a feel of my energy and how I teach this body stuff, you can always go to Body with Lila, Lila, bodywithlila.com.
Wonderful. And so the Riverstone Movement, so that is a school that you do. So I believe, tell us about their options. I know you do a movement challenge. I think you have a membership. Tell some people some more about how they could get involved with you and learn how to move more dynamically.
Yeah. So Riverstone Movement School is the umbrella of the mindful movement offerings that I provide. Bodywithlila.com, where if you go there, get the complimentary training, you'll get an example of what I teach. What I learned was that people said 2 things. 1, I don't have enough time. And 2, I struggle with consistency. So I created a way for you to do mindful movement in not very much time. They're 10 to 15 minute practices. And I also created a way for you to stay consistent. So I offer 42-day challenges quarterly. The next one starts in October. I offer a monthly membership, so where we practice 3 weeks out of the month. I also offer private coaching support to teach you the mindful movement in case you have a variable schedule and you can't make it to the community classes, or you like to be more private. If you're in a time zone where you can't make the group classes, the European clients, for example, work with me privately. So Riverstone Movement is an umbrella. I also have a DIY course. So if you want to do it yourself on your own in the privacy of your own home, you can do the 42-day challenge. I have it's all available online. You can easily get access to the trainings, and you run yourself through 42 days in a row. You can do it over and over and over. You can even pick one of the practices that you love and do just one practice every single day. It's super short. They're 10 minutes. And I have some clients there's a practice called the heart pulsing practice, which is the free practice I give out with bodywithlila.com. The heart pulsing practice, it's one of the favorites of my clients. And some clients just do that practice every day. So private support, online course, a membership program, and 42-day challenges.
That is awesome. And I know I have the DIY, and I'm guilty. I love the DIY. I've done the first week, but I need to what I really need to do is the 42-day challenge and be involved, because that'll be more accountability, because I'll know someone will be on me if I'm not showing up. It's ultimately up to us, but having that accountability and sometimes just doing it with other people and getting feedback is just kind of more energetic than trying to work on it and do it yourself, I think.
Yeah, if you know this is hard to do it all on your own, I get it. And that's why I'm here for you. We have the containers for you to come in, do the classes live. You don't have to think about it. You just show up, do the practice, and then go. It's only 10 or 15 minutes, right in that timeline. So if you know this is hard to do on your own, reach out to me. Let's talk. I'll help you.
Well, absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Lila. I really appreciate you spending the time. And everyone, if you're struggling with any of those topics that we are talking about, whether it's business, having the energy slumps, definitely you want to reach out to Lila and just to check with her. She has, she's very heartfelt, as you can tell, very energetic, and she is happy to work with you. She even has some complimentary programs you can test out, but you definitely want to reach out and talk to her. So that's all we have time for today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we will see you again next week. So you have a wonderful week.